Hello. See, we have about 1 or 2 minutes before we're going to start. So let me pull up my screen. So for those of you who are just now signing in, my name is Matt Mormon. I'm going to be your host today for your webinar on TCI's brand new Social Studies Alive, Michigan and its People. We're going to start right at, I guess, 1 p.m. Pacific time and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So most people that will be joining us, I assume, will be on the Eastern time zone, Michigan people. So it's about 3:59 on my watch right now. Um, if you are just joining us, I think we've got about 16 or so participants right now. And yeah, more people are coming in every second right now. Go ahead and throw in the chat, and I'll open up the chat and just share what district you are from. And let's see. What district you are from. Let me put that in here. And how well you know TCI on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest, 5 being expert. Um, Let me put this in here. Okay. So Betsy from Level, thank you very much, Betsy. Level 1, Betsy. Okay, awesome. Newbie, I love it. Lots of newbies, so that's great to see. Um, you can use the chat to communicate with me, and I have some of my colleagues on this webinar as well that will be kind of monitoring that, but I believe there's a Q&A that we'll get to in a second as well. So I'm very excited to have everybody here. I am pretty pumped up about this, and you're going to find out a little bit more why I'm so excited in just a second. So, Diocese of Saginaw, awesome. I'm a Bay City Western grad, class of 93, so I know that area really well. Let's see here. Let me introduce myself to start while you guys are putting in the chat your background, where you're from. So far, lots of ones on that scale of 1 to 5. So no co-presenters for me today, I guess. No other TCI experts. Um, my name is Matt Mormon. I am a national account manager with TCI. Mentioned that I was from the Bay City area. Actually grew up in Battle Creek, moved to Bay City in middle school, graduated there. I went to Western Michigan University. I got a teaching job in Plainwell schools, and I still raised my family here in the Portage, Kalamazoo area. And this is I'm concluding my 18th year with TCI here in a few weeks. I'll finish my 18th school year with TCI. So welcome everyone. And my email's on there too. So if you have any follow-up questions or anything I can ever help you with, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. So housekeeping things. So there's a Q&A and a chat. So you can use either. We're going to monitor them. So I may ask you some more questions again, like I did, like where you're from, what school you're from. You can use the chat for that. If you have a question in the middle of this presentation that you want to know, you can use the Q&A, and we have TCI people that will monitor that for you, and they will answer your questions. And then I'll be asking questions at the end to find out if I'll be like answering questions in real time at the end of this. So hopefully that works. So most of you answered my question already that I wanted to start out with, which was how well you know TCI. I figure most of you are here because you're excited to learn about resources to help elementary educators teach Michigan history standards, the Michigan GLICs. And then we obviously have been around for a long time in Michigan, and we've, had success, implementations in districts across the state. But the one thing that has always kind of bothered me was, what do we do about, Michigan history? We've never really had a solution till now. So for those of you who are new, just real quick, we're going to step into a TCI classroom and give you a very quick up to speed kind of catch you up to speed, if you will, on what it is TCI is and what we do. So this is a second grade lesson you're looking at right here. There's no sound on it. I'm just going to talk over it. And these second graders are learning about communities. It's the very first lesson in our second grade program. And students are learning about communities that, the different resources they have, like where do you live in a community, what types of homes, where do people work, what do people do for fun, and like some civics things, like where do people go to solve problems, how do we solve problems? And they have these activity cards in front of them, and they're using the string to build roads. They start out in small communities, but then they start to put their resources together and determine where the best way to use their different resources would be and where they're going to put them. And eventually they'll form larger communities until they finally form one big classroom community that has places to solve problems like city hall and the fire department and police officers and different types of homes, apartments, houses. And then, of course, different places for people to work, and then parks and recreation and things. And then the next lesson after that is they learn the differences between a rural, suburban, and urban community. It just kind of builds upon that. So you can see these students are very active. They're very hands-on. They're discussing and talking with each other. And that's common that you'll see in all TCI classrooms, K through 12th grade. This is an upper elementary lesson here. You can tell that we did this during the pandemic because they're still wearing their masks. But this is a 5th grade lesson. It's our famous sunken ship lesson. And students are learning about the motives and that kind of got European exploration going in the 15 and 1600s, and some of the new products that were brought back from the Americas that weren't previously known or had in Europe, and some of the new technologies like the astrolabe, for example, that allowed this new era of exploration to happen. And what happens is the students have a sunken ship on the floor of the classroom and has different artifacts that we know from ship logs would have been on these ships in the 1600s. And they are underwater archaeologists. They dive down into the hull of a sunken ship. They pull back an artifact. They bring it to their desk. They work with a partner and they dissect and look at what's on it. They match it up with some informational text that we provide in their social studies journal. And they try to take some brief notes of what that artifact is and why it was important to European exploration. And then later at the end of the lesson, the process repeats itself. They go get another artifact until they have all 8. And then they'll be categorizing those artifacts into 3 categories: new products, new technologies that helped, and then motives, reasons for wanting to explore. So that's really that kind of student-centered, hands-on learning is the heart of what we do at TCI. We want students to be engaged. We want them to remember what they're learning. Obviously, we know that social studies is not necessarily always in the eyes of time as important as things like math and language arts. So we have a careful ELA integration. And then obviously, elementary teachers work harder than anybody. I was a middle school teacher. My wife I'm married to she's an administrator now, but was an elementary teacher. And you have a lot of things to prep for. So ease of use obviously is really important. So we want our resources to be something that is easily accessible, not only to the students, but also to the teachers, because you have a lot going on. So that's kind of your quick little elevator message, I guess, into TCI and what we do and how we're a little different than some traditional, what we call quote unquote textbook publishers. But back to my initial problem that I said to you guys at the beginning, we have always had K-5 programs. We have a national program for 3rd grade. It follows the national standards for 3rd grade. And there's a lot of great things. A lot of school districts use our 3rd grade program. We teach geography, we teach civics, we teach, government history, but not through the lens of Michigan until now. So I'm very excited to join in our Michigan K-5 book bag, this brand new program that's really launching today. You're really some of the first people in the state today to see this program. It's called Social Studies Alive, Michigan and Its People, and it's targeted for 3rd grade. And you're going to learn all about it in the next few minutes here. I'm so excited to show it to you. So, Social Studies Alive, Michigan and Its People. And I hope you love the book cover there. We wanted to represent both peninsulas somehow, some way. We looked at lots of different images we could use, and we voted on this one unanimously. Everybody at the company that got to vote voted for this one. We love the bridge, and we love the fact that it's representative of both peninsulas in this image. So let's take a quick little snapshot into what type of activities you might expect to see in this new social studies resource. So this is one of the first lessons in the program. It's in the geography unit, and students are going to be touring I don't know, 9 different locations around the state. They're going to start in Iron Mountain. They're going to end up in Port Austin, I believe, is the final destination. And the students will be reading and taking notes and going on a scavenger hunt to pick up as much information as they can at each of the stops. So I'll kind of give you a quick little preview into what this looks like. So This is a slide deck that I'm using that teachers would have available to them to project up on their screen for students. Of course, you started, I said Iron Mountain, but I meant Ironwood, sorry. So they start there and you can see the trek that they make. So students would have access to this slide too, so they could do this a little asynchronously if they wanted to, but the teacher could do it, teacher led. So I live in the Kalamazoo area, which is close to Grand Rapids, so I'm just going to pick stop 6 to show you. So I'm going to drill into stop 6. You see that stop 6 is Grand Rapids. You can see where it is on the map. There's an image. There's a little video that goes with it. And then it talks about Kent County, Michigan's largest producer of apples. And I'm just going to show you a quick little glimpse of this video real quick.
As you make your way south, you will find the next stop, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Grand Rapids is the largest city in West Michigan, about 30 miles east of Lake Michigan. The Grand River, the largest river in the state of Michigan, flows through the city. It is 252 miles long and empties into Lake Michigan. Grand Rapids is in Kent County, which produces the most apples in the state. There are many apple orchards and cider mills in the area.
So it's a quick video. It's not long. And you can see that the students have information here that they can have read to them. And as they go, they close that down, they can go to another stop. So for example, if I went to Detroit, you're going to see a video on Detroit. You're going to see some information. And then what the students do is as they're reading in their journals, I'll explain what the journal is in a minute, but they will be able to read about Michigan's physical characteristics, where's Michigan's fruit belt, for example. And we know that it mentioned in the one video on Grand Rapids that we're going to learn that most of the apples in Michigan come from Kent County. I didn't actually know that. But anyways, and then as they go through their scavenger hunt, they have clues that they're looking for, and they're going to write their answers down here, and then they're going to write what draws people to that area. And they can do this in print or digital. So I'm going to take you through the materials in just a minute, but this is the digital version that you're looking at right now. Let's take another quick snapshot at a particular lesson from this program before we go a little deeper. This is kind of done in the spirit of our sunken ship lesson that we have, where the students dive down that sunken ship and they pull up those artifacts. It's a little bit like the spirit of that, but they're going to go into an old museum attic. I believe at Palmer Park Museum is where we're going in Detroit, and they are going to be going up in an old attic and examining some boxes and pulling up some artifacts to learn about some of Michigan's early history. So how that looks, you'll see there's a video here that just starts, and we'll just give you a little snippet of this real quick. They watch this video as a class. It's only a few minutes. It's like a minute or two long, I think.
Welcome to Detroit,
Let's
Michigan.
take a look at this for a second.
Located in Wayne County, Detroit is the most populous city and one of the oldest in Michigan. Detroit was founded way back in 1701 by the French as a fort to support settlement centered on the fur trade. Cities like Detroit are filled with historical sites like the log cabin at Palmer Park, which functioned as a museum as early as 1897, but has been closed to the public since 1979. Old houses like the log cabin can sometimes hold historic treasures in the attic. Attics can be filled with all sorts of artifacts, photographs, documents, artwork, letters, and maps. Historians examine artifacts to learn about the past. That's where you come in. A historical society of Detroit needs some junior historians to climb into the attic, retrieve the boxes, and examine their contents to see what they reveal about Michigan's history. Are you up for the challenge? Come on in. We'll tell you the ground rules and get started.
All right. I like that video because it kind of sets the tone and lets the students know what they're going to be doing in this activity. They're going to be junior historians. They're going to climb up in an attic and they're going to get these boxes. So how do we do that? So you will have 4 boxes in your classroom, and each box is going to contain some what we call activity cards. It comes with the program. The activity cards are artifacts that have to do with things like the first Europeans to kind of settle the Detroit area, some of the causes that led up to the French and Indian War, Pontiac's Rebellion. All of this stuff is kind of going to be found in these boxes, and it's really, really cute. As the students, you can have them. You have the directions up here, And then while they're hunting for the boxes and doing some of the reading and looking, you're going to love this. Check this out. So we've got these sound effects. You can put it on loop and you can have it as long as you want, or you can just have it for a few minutes. You don't have to play it. The whole thing itself, like from start to finish, is about 12 minutes long. And you can obviously model what doing this would look like. So let's say, for example, we're going to look at box one, the first Americans or first Europeans, sorry. So the students can pick on any of these. They can click on any of these artifacts. They also have the physical artifacts if you're doing the lesson, getting them up out of their seats and going. They would be able to do that, but we have it digitally too, especially so if you want to model that. And as the students go through each box, what they're going to do is they're going to, with a partner, carefully examine the artifacts in the box, write down one observation that they have that they noticed, and come up with a question that they have about that artifact, like write a question. And they'll kind of go through that with each box, and then they'll read the section of the text that deals with that artifact. You can see your Michigan standards are all linked right up here at the top there. And then they have some questions that they'll answer, like 2 questions about that. And then the whole process repeats itself. So that's just a quick, again, glimpse into our program. And so now what I want to do with you is I want to take a deep dive. We just scratched the surface so far. I want to take a deep dive and really show you how the program works, how it comes together, and we're going to unpack a unit and a lesson together on Michigan's economy that I think you guys are going to really love, and I think your students will love it as well. So let's first, I know that there's probably some questions, and I think that my colleagues are answering your questions if you're putting them into the Q&A, and I will be answering questions at the end of this live as well. But one of the questions I'm just anticipating that some of you might have is like, what is all comes with the program? I mean, got some cool lesson ideas here, but let's see it. So let's talk about the different components. Let's talk about the print components first. So student journal is the most important piece of the program. This is what the students will be using to record observations and ask questions. This is the information text. It isn't a consumable work text. People that are currently using our brand new 3rd edition K-5 resources in Michigan know that you subscribe to the journal and we auto ship it to you each year, so you don't have a yearly cost. But anyways, when you like, let's say we look at geography here, you can kind of see there's going to be an inquiry project at the beginning of every unit. So each unit will have an inquiry project where the students will be looking at a video or an image, gathering some evidence. There's a storyline and a compelling question. And the students will come up with some of their own questions. And as the students go through the unit, the lessons in the unit, they're going to summarize what they learned based on the supporting questions. And then eventually they will do a claim evidence reasoning that answers the unit question. So as you can see here, here's lesson 1, understanding Michigan's geography. There's a little introduction. There's a preview activity. Preview, for those of you new to TCI, is what we call our anticipatory set. It's just what we're doing to prime the pump, right? So, rank each activity from 1 to 6 being your favorite and describe a different outdoor activity. Where would you like to live? So again, we're getting into the geography of Michigan here. We have an activity where we learn about the different continents, the equator, the prime meridian, what a peninsula is, regions, absolute location, relative location, and there's a mapping activity that the students will do. And then they're going to put all this stuff like on a big blown up balloon that they're going to make. And then the second activity is that tour. So this is where the students are going to be keeping track of the scavenger hunt and the tour that I showed you and the reading that goes with it. And there's Tequanima Falls. I was just there with my family actually this past summer, I was at Tequanima Falls actually. So that's the student journal. Now, everything that you saw in the student journal is online, so you can do it digitally or print. I mentioned that there's those activity cards, right? So you've got these activity cards. These can be printed off, but they come with the program as well. So, we're just kind of flipping through some of the activity cards that go with it. These would be where you'd find those artifacts and things like that that are going to go in the box and other lessons that we'll be using it for. So those are the activity cards. There is a teacher's guide. So there's a print teacher's edition, if you will. And just to show you a couple quick things about that. So like as you're starting to plan a unit, You'll see like your procedures and planning project tables for doing your inquiry project. There'll be tips for that. Then you'll see the lessons and you'll see like brief time, like kind of time estimates and descriptions of the activities in that particular unit. And then you'll have answer keys to like the inquiry project and grading rubrics, things like that. Um, so here's your grading rubric for doing the claim evidence reasoning inquiry project. Here is the procedures for doing the first lesson. You'll see what materials you need, if there's any additional resources, what your social studies and language arts objectives are. You'll break the lesson out over a period of time. So like right here, it's saying the preview activity takes about 15 minutes and there's 5 minutes of reading. So if you only had 30 minutes of social studies that day, you might do the preview and then maybe you'd start the vocabulary activity, which might take you about 10 minutes. And then there's two hands-on activities for this particular one. This one's 30 minutes with 10 minutes of reading. This other one's 40 minutes with 20 minutes of reading. So you might do that over the course of several days. And then every lesson kind of culminates to what we call a show you know. It's a very authentic way to measure both procedural and declarative knowledge for students at the end of your lesson. You've got all the step-by-step procedures. You've got differentiation for different sub-learners, English language learners, advanced learners, kids with reading below grade level, and then your answer key to what's going to be in the journal as you go. And then everything else is online. So that's where I'm going to go next. I'm going to take you online and we're going to go live into the program now. And we're going to unpack a unit together. And I think you're going to be really excited about this. So this is what it would look like when you first come in to the program. If you were to assign something for your students digitally, you could just create an assignment right there. Pick what assignment you want, what you want them to read or whatever. And you put that assignment, it's going to show up right here where it says no current assignments. As students start to do things digitally, it will start to appear here where it says no student work. So you'll see it front and center. But again, everything that I'm going to show you is in print or digital. So some teachers will prefer to be kind of paperless and do most of the digital. And some teachers prefer to use the journals and do things with paper and pencil. So you don't have to feel like you have to do any digital grading in third grade if you're doing the print. Off to the left are some quick links to the things that I'll use the most. But if I expand that, if I expand this over here, you'll see everything that I would ever need to use. So that can be a little overwhelming for teachers sometimes, so we like to close it once in a while, but there's nothing that you can't find that you're going to need that's not over here on what we call the purple sidebar. You can get to the text quickly, you can get to the assessments quickly, you can get to biographies, maps, pacing guides, correlations to the standards, your grade book, everything is over here, right? So I'm just going to close that down. And then the most important part are your units right here. So you've got a geography unit, you've got 2 history units, you have an econ unit, a government and civics unit. Now, why 2 history units? Well, I'll tell you why. We'll look at the table of contents. Some of you may know, and I don't know if you've been around, but I was around. I was teaching when the GLICs came out in 2006, 2007. And that is when Michigan history pretty much moved from 4th grade to 3rd grade. So maybe some of you were around when Michigan history was a 4th grade thing. They did leave a few standards in 4th grade. And I think the intent is that there were a lot of 4th grade teachers maybe that weren't happy about losing Michigan. Maybe they weren't going to, my kids in 4th grade took a field trip to Lake Michigan. Maybe that teacher didn't want to lose that field trip. I don't know. So they did keep some standards in 4th grade, the beyond statehood standards. So what we did is we put the 3rd grade history standards through statehood in Unit 2, and then we put the beyond statehood standards at the end so that, because I know there's a lot of districts that are still going to do the 4th grade, 3rd grade Michigan standards in 4th grade, but most schools pretty much that I talk to are doing all of the Michigan standards in 3rd grade. So that's why you have the beyond statehood stuff there at the end. So let's drill into one. I'm going to drill into this one, economics, because when I first got in here, and I haven't explored, I've probably seen maybe 4 or 5 lessons in this program. It's so new. I haven't gotten a chance to look at everything yet. But what caught my eye on the economics unit was Meyer. You can't talk about Michigan without talking about Meyer. So I thought that was interesting that we have a Meyer gas station on the economics unit. So I want to drill down into that unit. And once you drill into a unit, you're now on a page called the unit overview page. The compelling question for this unit is, how do Michigan's location and natural resources influence what companies and jobs support our economy. And there's that inquiry project right there. So you would start every unit with the inquiry project. And then there's this area here we'll talk about at the end with like games and biographies and some more supplemental stuff that you can use to enrich and to dive deeper. And then we have 3 lessons that go with this unit. We have got Michigan's early economy, cars driving the economy, and modern Michigan. So I'm going to drill into the inquiry project first because that's where you would start. And on there's going to be a video that my students are going to watch that they will watch a video that starts every unit off this way. And then in their journal, they will have this image of this Meijer gas station, and then they will have places that they can do the inquiry project digitally. So like, we're going to watch this video and it says, list 3 details that you see. What are some items that might be sold at the store? How might a store like this benefit the people of Michigan? I don't know a 3rd grader in the state that hasn't been to Meijer's at least once. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with here. And then we give them the unit storyline, talks about Meijer being started as a grocery store in Greenville, Michigan, 1934. And then we want to help our students as a class brainstorm and come up with some questions. And then as we start to go into the 7th and 8th and 9th lesson in this program, we're going to summarize what we learned, and then eventually we will do our claim evidence reasoning. So this is just the digital version of what I showed you in print at the beginning. Let's take a look at the video. This is pretty cool. So you would have a slide deck. You'd be able to go full screen with your students. And let's take a look at how we introduce the economics unit to 3rd graders in Michigan.
Examine this image. List 3 details you see in this photograph. Pause the video if you need more time to discuss.
All right, now this is where I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Use the chat and just write in one. I need to come up with 3 details, but if you can only come up with 1, that's fine. But some brave volunteer put in the chat 2 or 3 details that you see in the video, that you saw in the video, or that you can see in this image. Let's see who's got their keyboard ready in the chat and wants to put something in the chat for that. All right. Oh, that was Melanie from TCI putting in there. Yeah, Stacy, thank you. Meijer's written in red letters. Awesome. Let's see if we can come up with any other. What else do we see in this image? There's lots more going on. Jennifer wrote that there's lots of cars and there's a parking lot. Shelly has a parking lot. Thank you, Mary. Yep. Excellent. So this is what you would do with your students right now, right? You would have them kind of tease out and pull. Yes, Mary, the gas station as well. So I'm going to continue the video. Let's see how the video now goes. And we give you some time, but I like to pause it because I think we don't give you as much time as you might need to have that discussion with your students. There's a little countdown clock there where it gives you time to pause.
You might have said that there is a gas station.
We got that.
Can you see the large store behind it? There is a parking lot between them with many cars. What types of items might be sold in this store?
Again, I could pause the video here and we could discuss with our students what types of items. And again, I think you're going to get a good discussion here because I don't know a lot. I mean, you know, Meijer is a very popular store. It's all over the state of Michigan. I think there's 8 where I live in Kalamazoo. The whole time.
Look at the size of this store. Everything from clothes to home supplies to groceries might be sold in this store. How might a store like this benefit the people of Michigan?
We pause again. We have another quick little discussion about that, but I'm going to keep moving on here.
It is easier to buy almost everything you need in one place instead of going to many stores. These stores are usually less expensive than those selling just one type of product. Meijer is a large chain of stores located in the Midwest of the United States. It was founded as a grocery store in Greenville, Michigan in 1962. Meijer stores grew larger as they began selling a wide range of products in addition to food. The stores became the first supercenters in the country. Today, around half of Meier's supercenters are in Michigan. Its headquarters are in Walker, Michigan, near the city of Grand Rapids. It's one of the biggest private companies in the United States. Throughout this unit, we'll explore the compelling question, how do Michigan's location and natural resources influence what companies and jobs can support its economy? To answer this question, follow the inquiry process. Collect evidence as you complete each lesson. Gather additional content knowledge using outside research. Use this information to construct an argument by making a claim with at least 2 pieces of evidence. Finally, take informed action by sharing what you learned. Let's get started.
So that stuff that they had at the end there was just to remind the students that we're doing these inquiry projects. And we start the inquiry projects with students as early as kindergarten. There are 4 types of inquiries. All of our elementary inquiries are all level 1 inquiries. When we get to middle school at TCI, we do level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then when we get to high school, all of our inquiries are level 4. So it's kind of like a progression. And so it's okay to do a lot of this with the students, but so you can model right here, list 3 details that you saw in this photograph. What are some types of things that were sold? We stopped the video and we had discussions about this. And so the students can write this right in their journal, but they can type it in the digital version as well. And as you as a teacher can type it right up here too for them if you're modeling that. And like I said below, we have our storyline. We're going to, as a class now, come up with 3 more questions that we want to know more about how Michigan's location and natural resources influence companies and jobs. One of the companies that we're looking at in our storyline is the store of Meijer and what it does for our economy and all the different, not only jobs, but resources it provides for shoppers in Michigan. And then the first lesson that we would do is on Michigan's early economy. And the supporting question that we're going to be focusing on when we do that first lesson is, why was Michigan's early economy focused on farming and fur trade and lumber? And then we're going to move into learning about things like steel and how our connection with iron in Michigan and the Great Lakes and how that really created a spot for us to be a mecca for the automobile industry. And we're going to learn a little bit about Henry Ford and how the automobile industry really drives Michigan's economy. And then modern Michigan, how are jobs in Michigan changing today would be the third lesson in that unit. Eventually, like I said, the students will take that information and they will be able to construct that claim and evidence. Okay, so enough about the inquiry projects. I've showed it to you from 2 views. I showed you one in print and one in digital. Now what I would do is I would go back to that unit overview page and I would drill into one of the lessons. Well, I thought about showing you Michigan's early economy, but when I saw lesson 8, I about flipped out and I'm like, no, I have to show this. So I don't even know what lesson 7 is yet. I'm sure it's great. I haven't looked at it, but lesson 8 really caught I like the other 2 lessons I looked at that I showed you as well, but this lesson just was like, blew my mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill into lesson 8, cars driving Michigan's economy. Now I'm on a page called the lesson overview. So on the top right here, you'll see the Michigan standards, the content expectations, right? So like using Michigan as an example, explain how specialization leads to increased interdependence. We are going to live that standard in about 5 minutes here. You can see the other ones. Identify products produced in other Michigan countries consumed by people in Michigan. So all those standards are there. You'll see this overview here. This is the same information that was in that print teacher guide. So you still have your objectives and your lesson overview and the timing and the pacing of everything here. Any materials that you need, you can go here. So we're going to be doing an activity where we're going to eventually need the activity cards, these interchangeable parts, these tracers. So your students will be getting these later on. So I'm just going to have those ready to go. If you wanted to see the student journal, again, this is what it looks like. So there's the first page. And then there's our essential question. This is going to be the introduction that we would read. And then as students are doing the preview, they can write right on there. So, and then there's some informational text and vocabulary. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Um, I've got access points for differentiation. So if I have students that are struggling with reading, need some help with vocabulary, the access points for differentiation would be a really helpful handout as well. Here's my procedures. I've got information on differentiation. Again, specific, I've got ways I can modify for English language learners or students reading below grade level or even advanced learners. It's all right there. And then enhancing learning are additional websites. These are things that TCI didn't create in the enhancing learning, but they're things that we've vetted that work really well with what you're teaching. So sometimes there's videos, there's virtual field trips, there's simulations, there's articles, there's extended readings, literature recommendations, things like that. It's going to be different from lesson to lesson. Okay, I'm going to minimize all of that now and show you this area here. So if we wanted to get to the text, the reading, I would just click on the reading here and I have the online text. This is the same information that's in the print journal. So it's right there. One of the nice things that we can do is we can have the text read to them.
Cars. Driving the economy.
And maybe I feel like that's too slow, so maybe I'll speed up the speed a little bit.
How did the automobile industry start, and
Okay.
how did it affect the...
That's kind of a cool feature. We can also click for main ideas and see the main ideas. Students can highlight things themselves. They can zoom in on images and image magnifier. They can kind of look at what's going on in the images. All right, there's vocabulary cards that they can click on. Like assembly line is going to be one of our cards. We can flip that and have the definition and have it read to us as well. All right. So that is the text, right? So that's the text and it's all in there. I'm going to go back to the lesson overview. Now, this is the best part. This is my favorite part of TCI, by the way. So we have different ways we can assess down here, but this right here, classroom activity slideshow, this is going to be your lifeline with TCI. It's like this for all of our programs. It's a customizable slideshow that takes you and your students through every aspect of the lesson. The reading is embedded into it. So the reading is separate over here to the left, but if you're going to do the classroom activity, you don't need to worry about that reading because it's embedded. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that slideshow, and we're going to see how we're going to teach students about cars driving the economy. So you can see that we have an anticipatory set that we call preview, about 20 minutes, and a vocabulary activity, about 10 minutes. So that might be what I do on Monday. And then the next time that I do social studies, I might do my activity, my hands-on activity, the assembly line. And then all TCI lessons have what's called a show you know at the end. It's kind of like a processing assignment. It's a way for students to show mastery of all the skills and declarative knowledge that they should have had at the end of your lesson. So preview activity is this. Examine the images, so you're sitting with a partner right now. Examine the images with a partner and consider these questions. How do the items pictured help people? How do they help people, right? And what might happen if these items had not been invented? So you're having like a pair share or partner seat partner share here. And we've got these little widgets. So for example, if we want to, bike helmets can protect people from injuries. Mechanical pencils are good for writing without having to sharpen your pencil. And then building blocks are good for creativity, right? All right, so then we move on here, and it's a little preview activity. And the students, you can assign this slide to the students so they can do this too, or you can have them come up to your whiteboard or give them a wireless mouse and do this. But we've got two sets of things, and what they have to do, these are ideas. Ideas are inventions often people come up with wanting a need for something that doesn't exist, right? And then people also invent things when they want to make something better, like they want to improve upon it, right? Following the engineering. So discuss the differences of these images with your partner and then drag and drop them to show the order and let's this light right here, right? So I might put this down here because that's how we, originally lit, and then maybe something like this. And I'm not sure if I'm going to get this correct or not, but I think that's how that's supposed to go. And then maybe something like this here. Let's see how I did. Yeah, I got them all right. I wasn't sure on the light bulbs. Threw me off. I think my family's still on the third stage. I don't think we've upgraded to whatever this fourth thing is. I haven't seen that light bulb yet, but there's an improvement upon that. So now the preview activity in their journal, and I'm going to show it to you in print and digital now. So here's the preview activity in their print journal. It says, think about an invention that has been helpful to you. Make a simple sketch of that invention, then in a sentence or two, explain how it impacts you. So what's the invention and what's the impact? So what does that look like digitally? So digitally, the students would be able to click on this image here, and open up, and they've got this blank canvas now. So they can drop a text box in and type if they want to. They can grab a freehand drawing tool and draw right on here. They, of course, can change the color if they want. So let's say I wanted to make that green. Now I've got the green color. And then we've given them different clip art and things as well. Like, so maybe I want to put something in here, like a house for whatever reason. And I'm telling you right now, you're I don't even know. Do you guys even have Gen? Are you guys on Gen A? Or are you on Gen? You're on Gen B already, I think. Are we still in Gen A? I don't know. But your Gen A or Gen B kids they will show you how to use all this stuff. They know how to do it. It's very intuitive for them. But that's what that drawing canvas will allow you to do. Or you could do it. And then here's where they would write their 2 sentence explaining how it impacts them. But that's how that would work. Of course, you know that you could do it on paper as well with the journal. All right. So that leads us to, we're talking about inventions and how people, improve things and inventions that have improved our lives. And that leads us to the 1800s when Henry Ford decided to improve the way automobiles were manufactured. He wanted everyone to be able to afford cars. He really wanted his employees to be able to afford the cars that they were making. He knew that his factories could improve the way they built automobiles. So he used this innovative system to build cars faster than ever before. So in this lesson, we're going to learn how his inventions and inventions from long ago continue to impact people today. And we can read the introduction of the text. So that stayed over there, that highlight that I did when I was modeling the highlights, that actually came over with the program for me. So I'm just going to get rid of that highlight right now. Whoops. Delete that. And then this same page, we read these 2 paragraphs together as a class. And of course, it's right here. Whoops, I went too far. There's the page, introduction. So this is what it looks like, the same text in the print journal. And this is what it looks like when we're on the digital side. All right, so now vocabulary. We've got new words for them, new academic vocabulary like assembly line and what is an entrepreneur, what are capital resources, the Great Migration, human resources in interchangeable parts, manufacturing, and mass produce. So those are our vocabulary words for this lesson. And we can click on those widgets and get those definitions. And then you can assign your students to do a vocabulary activity in the journal. So here's the activity in the journal right here. We've given them a word bank. Henry Ford was a entrepreneur, right? Who used, right, manufacturing such as factories to grow his companies quickly, right? So it's a little vocabulary activity that we can do. And then, of course, the students can do it right in their digital journal as well. So they can drop the text boxes in there. And then another thing that you can do whole group or assign to your students individually if you want is then they come up here and kind of test their knowledge. So see, entrepreneur, and I'll just hit submit. So I got that one right, but I haven't moved the other ones, and I'm just going to randomly put these around and see how I do here. And I've gotten one right on the second attempt, and I didn't get that right, so I didn't do well on that one. And then I have another chance to do another set of those again. So that's the preview. So that's what we're doing to kind of springboard into this, prime the pump, get students ready. And now the main part of the lesson comes now with this hands-on activity. So we're going to read section 1 and complete the video, the reading notes first. And then students are going to take on the role of a factory worker to see what it was like to work on the assembly line and how assembly line and specialization improved manufacturing and made cars affordable to really, really drive Michigan's economy. We'll debrief the experience, and then we'll read and take some notes in our journal for sections 2, 3, and 4. So we look at this, and so it says new industries in Michigan. So we've got a little visual discovery with the students here. Examine this image, and it says discuss with a partner what's pictured in this image. What material is it made from, and why do you think it's made from this material? So students are going to turn to their seat partners, and you're going to give them time to respond to this question first. And then you'll pull some volunteers up to point different things that they see. So like, what is this image of? Let's find out. It's an old wood-burning stove, right? What's it made of? It's made of iron. Why is it made of iron, do you think? Well, maybe because iron can get really hot and it won't burn. You won't burn your house down, right? Okay. So in 1800s, iron ore and coal were discovered in Michigan. And if we've already done lesson 1, we've already stopped in the UP, the Upper Peninsula, and did our tour of Ironwood. So we know all about iron up at Ironwood already from that lesson. But iron ore was discovered in the Upper Peninsula, coal was discovered in the Lower Peninsula. These materials were used to make iron and steel. Iron and steel were used to make products like those cast iron stoves. So what else is made from iron and steel? So we've got another little drag and drop activity where students can drag and drop other things. So we know probably like the railroads, right? Maybe some of this stuff, and maybe this chain here. Put this over here. Did I get that right? Let's check and see. So let's see if I did it right. And I got them all right. So yes, the football and the Legos, something else. Okay, so we'll read section 1. So here's section 1, new industries in Michigan. So there's 4 paragraphs. We're going to learn one of our vocabulary words when we read this, manufacturing. We're going to learn our second vocabulary word, which is entrepreneur. Again, students can zoom in on the visual discovery and see what's happening. This is Detroit becoming a center for manufacturing in the late 1800s. This shows Woodward in the 1890s. All right. And so then, of course, it says provide details to support an idea about iron steel, and you can draw about that. So what's one main idea about iron and steel, and they can put some non-linguistic representation about that. So now we bring us to the assembly line. So cars were also made from iron and steel in the 1800s. They were made in factories. And then look at the different, they look different than they do today. So slide the bar to show which one you prefer. So again, you can slide this over. I like this car, or I like this car. And most kids are going to probably pick that they like this car better. It's a little more modern. It looks new, but some kids might like the old-timey look of the old car there. So it says, imagine what it was like to work in a factory building cars. And what would that have been like? So each of you is going to receive a blank piece of paper. So you're going to give every student in the classroom a piece of paper. And they're going to have 3 minutes to draw the most detailed car that they can. And we've given them a picture of an old car right here, and we've got that little countdown. So the countdown goes on, and they get 3 minutes to draw a car. Every part of it. Just kind of like, from scratch. The wheels, the rims, the hood, the roof, the windshield, the bumper, everything. So they draw that car. And then now, put your drawings aside. Put your drawings aside. You each made one car at a time. Each of you worked on your car from start to finish. This is similar to the way people used to make goods, right? We know that. That's piecemeal that they did before we started getting in factories and automated processes. Working on an assembly line, however, changed this. Each worker had a specific job. We had specialization. In this next activity, you're going to take on the role of factory workers on an assembly line. So we're actually going to turn our classroom now into 2 companies, 2 car companies, the auto company and the mobile company. So you're going to need half of your class in a nice, neat row. So you'll move your desks so that they're all in a neat row. And you could have a sign up that says, auto company and mobile company for each company, because there are going to be 2 different companies here. Half of the kids are going to be assigned auto and half are assigned mobile, and they get to take their seats where they're supposed to be. And then assembly lines will produce as many of this automobile. That's their picture right there of what we're going to be making. We need to make this exact automobile. That's what we're producing. Each worker will specialize on producing one of those features. So what does that look like? Let's take a look. So you're going to number the kids off from 1 to 12. Okay. If you don't have, 24 kids in the class, or you have an extra, there's ways that you can modify and change it very easily for that. So you've numbered the kids off. To each worker will quickly and carefully draw their part. So worker number 1 will start with a half sheet of paper. You're actually going to give them a half sheet of paper, not a full sheet of paper. There's a reason for that. And worker 1 quickly draws the roof on the piece of paper. Worker 1 will then pass that paper down the row to worker 2. Worker 1 will get a new piece of paper and draw another roof and move it down. Worker 1 will get another half sheet of paper and draw the roof and move it down. Worker 2, each time they receive a piece of paper, they do the windshield and the steering wheel. Okay? So then they pass that paper to worker 3. And it just keeps going like this, right? Worker 3, when you receive your piece of paper, you will draw the hood. Pass your paper to worker 4. Worker 4 receives a piece of paper, they draw the fender section. Passing it to worker 5. Worker 5 draws the front tire and wheel, passes to 6, and so on. And we won't go through all of these, but eventually, the upper back section of the car will be drawn on the half sheet of paper by worker 12, right? So there's some rules in our factory. It's no laughing, no horseplay, no talking. Very serious business here. They're working for money, or in this case, for points for class, and they have to follow the rules and work hard to receive the full pay for the day, which is the 10 points. Workers of the company that create the most high quality automobiles can't just have chicken scratching. The most high quality automobiles will receive 5 additional points. So they can up to $15 or pay for the day, right? Factory supervisor, you get to be the factory supervisor, will now distribute pencils. You're going to give the pencils and a stack of paper. Now, it's important to note that the stack of paper that they should get is going to be a half sheet of paper, because we want them to kind of struggle to get this, because later as technology improves, they're going to get better quality paper to help them improve their designs and quality. So we'll have this up here, and this is what it's like. You're on here, got our sound effects. It's drawing, passing, drawing, passing, drawing, passing. And I'm going to mute that so I can talk over it. But you're going to do that for a few minutes. I think the sound effects goes for like 3 minutes or something like that. And you're going to get to the end. And okay, so it says attention. You're going to stop what you're doing. Technical advances have now been made. Due to recent innovations, some factory workers will now use interchangeable parts. So workers 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9, please get your interchangeable parts. And that's where these interchangeable parts will come in for each of the workers. So these are tracers, okay? So those particular workers, because of technological advances, when they get the paper passed to them, they're going to be able to trace theirs using those shapes. So it makes it a little easier. Whoops, didn't mean to go back to there. So we can continue this on again. And we've got that up here again, so you can see which ones you have to do. And this is attention, workers at the auto company. Your factory owner now has easier access to more resources. Worker 1 will now receive full sheets of paper. Workers of the mobile company, your factory owner does not want to take a risk of spending more on these resources. You will continue to be working as you have. Resume production. Okay, so we do that, go through this, and then your shift is over, stop production, count the automobiles your assembly line completed, and inform the factory supervisor how many high-quality automobiles did you produce, right? So this is an experiential exercise. In any experiential exercise, it's really important to do the debrief. So we're going to debrief this. What were the benefits of having the interchangeable parts? How did it feel to work for the auto company? How did it feel to work for the mobile company? Based on this experience, what were the benefits of working on the assembly line? And those are the discussions that you and your third grade students are going to have. And then, of course, we want to fill in the gaps. So we're going to read some of the reading here. Section 2 is going to be about Henry Ford. So they should be interested in this, learning about Henry Ford's mass production, interchangeable parts, and assembly line, because we just got done experiencing that. And then we're going to read about the population shift and the Great Migration that came to Michigan. And then, of course, what cars are like today, modern cars. And some cars are still made here. Obviously, cars are made in other countries and come in as imports. And there's information about that. And then as the students read that information, they have some notes that they're going to be taking both either digitally or in their print notebook, or their print journal. So here, we'll skip ahead here a little bit in the journal, and you'll see where the students will record those notes in their journal here, right here. Classroom experience debrief. Okay, so go back here to this next one. So, that's the page you just saw, the last page that I just went past right there. So here, the students are going to be making, now that they've got some history, they're going to do this cool little graphic organizer. It's a T-chart where they're going to compare and connect what they experienced in class to what really happened in history. So for example, craftspeople from long ago worked on creation of goods individually from start to finish. Students drew the cars individually. Assembly lines enabled workers to produce more cars per day. How did that translate? What did we do in the class? Right? We used tracers in the class right here to speed up the drawing process. What did that relate to? Right? Interchangeable parts, right? In Henry Ford's assembly line factories. Okay, and then the show what you know at the end, we're going to read the summary, the little summary at the end of the lesson. It's just these three little paragraphs here. And then provide two details to support the main idea. The automobile industry impacted Michigan's economy. What's the main idea there? And then use the word bank and your classroom experience as a factory worker to complete this paragraph. So they're going to fill in this paragraph here. Automobile factory workers worked on, they focused on building one blank and so forth. You can see that there. And then we're ready to assess. Now, in our assessments, just kind of go through here really quickly. We've got a lot of different ways. Show you know is one way we can assess. Lesson games and summative assessments are other ways that we can assess. So lesson games are things that you can assign to them digitally. They're like Jeopardy or other games. It's a gamification. But what I love about our games is the students can have them read to them and they can participate in these games. But the games are self-graded. And then you'll get item analysis and data reports that'll show you exactly how your students are doing, like if certain percentage of the class missed a question on the first attempt. So you can have that data to drive like teaching and reteaching. Our summative assessments are awesome because they're customizable. So you can actually go in and, use bank of questions that we've created, or you can use questions other teachers have shared, or you can create your own questions from scratch. You can delete our questions, you can move them around, you can get these summative questions exactly the way you want, especially if you have grade level teams working on common assessments. That's a great way to do that, kind of come together. And then ELA integration, hopefully you saw a lot of that, but all of the show are writing assignments, the careful vocabulary development, the text, the considerate text, and the hands-on activity really drive home the main points. And then the notes in that journal notebook all have the writing prompts as well in there. And we've got the ELA objectives as well as the social studies standards as well. I did mention the reading support, like text-to-speech and different reading levels. We do translate to Spanish as well. And then I did mention the differentiation, the way that we differentiate for students as well in that. I talked a little bit about the enhancing learning area as well. And then the libraries, I kind of skipped over that, but there's video libraries, games libraries, biographies, civics, primary sources. Those are resources that have writing assignments that go with them that you can use supplementally if you want to. The games are really fun if you want to use that as an assessment. And then a lot of people will ask us like our integration to Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom, ClassLink, Clever. We partner with all these companies to make a seamless integration. So we are almost at 5 o'clock. I wanted to get done with about 5 minutes to 5 to see what questions. So Melanie, is there anybody that's got some questions that they put in the Q&A that they really didn't get answered that I can answer for anybody right now?
No, not so far.
All right, quiet group, huh?
Yes, I think they're just
Okay,
enjoying the tour.
awesome, awesome. So, Melanie, do you have some links so that people can get in and try that right away? Do we have those links to put in the chat so people that want to take like a little bit of the deep dive on their own or go into this and explore a little more on their own can do that?
I will put a lesson hub link in there, and I know that we're going to send them one too as well.
Yeah, you guys, everybody that registered for the webinar, you're going to get a recording to this webinar and you're going to get some links. But I believe that Melanie is putting in the chat. Oh, you put it in the Q&A. Put it in the Q&A?
No, I just put it in the
No,
chat.
Wendy had one. Is there a separate text beside the journal? There's not, Wendy. The journal is the text. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about that. So the text is the journal. It's a consumable work text. So we used to have a separate text. So if you had our first or second edition Social Studies Alive, you would have had a hardcover textbook and you would have had a consumable workbook called the Interactive Student Notebook. In 2022, when we came out with our third edition of our K-5 Social Studies, we merged those two resources. And we did that because of feedback that we got from teachers. We've gotten tons of teachers coming to us saying, well, these publishers do it like this, and we want you to do it like this. So we did some research, market research, and we decided to put make the journal a combo of the informational text and the consumable workbook into one. Now, it's really, really affordable actually too, because the way people are already getting multi-year licenses for our digital. So we just bundled in multi-year licenses, basically subscriptions, if you will, for the journal. So the journal by itself is about $18, but when you bundle it in with a long-term license, it's about $7 a piece. And then we auto ship those to you every year. So let's say you had 100 students and you bought 100 licenses or and journals. Let's say you did it for 6 or 7 years or whatever. We can go up to, like, some people do 8 years, some people do 4 years. It depends on what you want it for. Every single year, then in the spring, you're contacted and we give you the order form to put in your order for your consumable journals, and then we auto ship that to you. You're not charged for it. It's already paid for up front. So hopefully that answers that question. And then in the chat, Melanie put in a link that I want you guys to all check out, and I'm gonna click on it myself and see if I can, whoops. Melanie, I don't think that link is working. I think we're missing something
Oh,
there.
okay. I'll
That's
check.
okay. I'm gonna go ahead
There's
and
a question about, is there a minimum license number to purchase?
no, there is not a minimum license. So it's just there's no minimum license. So what you do if you're, you need a teacher license, obviously, because that's how you're going to be able to get in and get into all this stuff that I'm in here, right? This is my teacher license that I'm in. Um, some schools will buy teacher licenses and then print for the students, and some schools will buy digital for the students, but most schools very popular to go print and digital for the students because there's times when you want them in the print and sometimes you want them in the digital. And there's no minimum. We work with the largest school districts in the state. We work with the smallest school districts in the state. There's districts that are buying 5,000 student license. There's districts that are buying 30 student licenses. So yeah, there's no minimum there. And I got that link to work. So that link that Melanie put in, it's right here. So you're on the sample hub for Michigan right here, and you can go in and you can explore right here elementary lessons. So when you click on that and then you go down a little bit further, you should see oh, maybe I'm not in the right one. Should be the Michigan one. I thought it was here. Choices, well, missing that one for some reason, but I will get it because I have the link here. I was just messing with it a minute ago, so hold on a second. If I was a radio DJ, I'd be in trouble for the dead air right now.
No, you're okay. I had some questions about individual pricing. We do have the shop right there.
Yeah, if you want to see individual pricing, you can go to teachtci.com, and right here there's a little shop area, and you can click on that and go in and you can see all of our prices there. Okay, all right, let's go here. There we go. This is the link, and I'm going to put this in the chat again one more time just to make sure everybody has this. Okay, so that link that I just put in the chat for everybody, this will take you to this area for Michigan, and you can see actually not just our third grade program, but if you're curious about our kindergarten or fifth grade or anything else, they're all in here. But right here, the Michigan one, you can join our early access wait list. You can see the scope and sequence. So you can see all the units and all the lessons, or you can experience a lesson. And this is a new feature that we just released, this experience a lesson. And you can go here to explore the lesson, and it'll take you through the reading. It'll take you through the classroom activity, and you can try that out. So excellent. Any other questions? I want to be respectful of your time too. I don't want to hold people that have dinner to make or kiddos to get to practice tonight. I know how that goes. But I'm happy to stay on and answer as many questions as I can. And I know that Melanie's done a great job of answering questions for you guys behind the scenes. So thank you, Melanie, for doing that as well.
Of course.
Patricia, you're very welcome. Thank you so much. And we will be following up with a lot of you too to see if you guys have any questions as well. And you'll have contact information, places that you can reach out when you receive your link. So we've got your information for signing up for the webinar. We'll get you the additional resources and the recording that'll be coming. But when you're on here and you go to that lesson, you can see there's a nice little contact a TCI representative too. So if you need to get a hold of one of us and you have questions or want us to do a demo for your school or send you some samples, that kind of stuff, that's where you would do to do that. So lots of people typing in thank you. And you know what? I just want to say you're very welcome. I want you to know that this is a long time coming. I have been asked for 18 years when we're going to have a Michigan program, and we're a small company. A lot of people don't realize that. You know, we're not this huge, giant Fortune 500 company that can just whip something together really quick. We want to make sure it's done well. And I'm just really thrilled to be at TCI at a time when we were able to do something like this for our Michigan people who've been asking for this for a long time. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed this webinar, and I want to thank you for coming tonight. And we'll be in touch. And don't be a stranger. Please reach out if you have any additional needs. Thank you, everybody.